Hello everyone, my name is Ashika Jain and I'm a third year student at the West Bengal National University of Juridical Sciences, Kolkata. I have been teaching logic at CLAT since the past 1 year, and today we are about to deal with one of the most interesting and important topics of logical reasoning, that is input-output. Now, what does this topic actually entail? It essentially deals with a series of inputs which in normal daily lives we feed into machines such as computers. Now, the output that we get from these machines or say our computers is not a one-step process which the input goes through. The input is actually going through a series of steps after which it gives us the final output. This topic essentially requires us as humans to analyze the different steps that are involved in processing the input to give us an output. We are given an input before us as the question, and the question only tells us how a particular machine is dealing with the input in different steps to give us the output. We are required to understand and analyze those different steps in order to apply the same logic or the same steps to another set of input in order to answer the following questions. With this basic introduction, let's get to what this topic actually entails. The do's and don'ts of input-output. Firstly, check the change in position of elements. So sometimes what happens is, suppose you feed into your computer A, B, C, D. That is, your input has 4 elements A, B, C and D. The output which you get is essentially D, C, B, A. So what has the computer done? The computer has essentially reversed the positions of the elements which you had fed into the computer to give you an inverted position of all the elements. This is what is meant by a change in position of elements. A, which was in the first place, came to the 4th place, and D, which was in the 4th place in your input, came to the 1st place in the output. This is the change in position of the elements. Next, check the change in elements. So say in this example, your input is A, B, C, D, but your output is B, C, D, E. What has been done? Essentially, all the elements have been changed to their +1 elements, that is, to the alphabets which follow those alphabets in the alphabetical order. So A was changed to B, B was changed to C, C was changed to D, and D was changed to E. This is what is meant by a change in the elements themselves. Check the per step change. This is the most critical part of input-output. Why do I say that it's critical? Because while in certain questions, it might be easy to understand and compare the input with the final output, the per step change is where students actually get caught and make silly mistakes. So make sure that the different steps that are followed by the machine in order to give you the output are well understood by you before you start answering the questions. Next, do compare the final output with the input. Now you might think that this is such an easy thing to do. However, while it is easy, as you go on to do more advanced questions, students forget to do this only. What they try to do is try to find the per step change first and then try to find what's the final change in output. However, if you do the reverse, that is, if you first compare the input with the final output, you'll realize that solving the question actually becomes easier and faster. Next, use pen and paper to solve. Input-output is again another question which you should not try to solve mentally. Use a pen and paper, write down all the steps that are given to you for the required input, and then answer all the questions that follow. It might seem to be a time-consuming exercise in the beginning. However, later on you'll realize that not only can you do it faster with a bit of practice, but this method also ensures accuracy and prevents you from making silly mistakes. Don't do it mentally is essentially what I just said. Don't skip steps. So what happens is that sometimes something which might be done in, say, a single step is done in 2 steps by the machine. What do I mean by this? So say sometimes ABCD can be converted into DCBA in one step only. However, certain machines first only bring D to the first position and write all the rest of the elements in the same order. That is, step 1 might be D, A, B, C. Step 2 might be D, C, A, B. Step 3 might be DCBA. So essentially what you are required to do is not just jump from step 1 to step 3 just because it's an easy input output, but actually analyze every per step change to get the answer correctly. Next, don't skip any instruction. This follows from the very fact that you are required to read the question properly. Finally, don't ever rush with the questions, because input-output is another one of your subtopics of analytical reasoning, which sort of ensures you the correct answer right inside the exam hall. Now that we're done with the theory, let's solve a few examples of input-output questions to understand the topic better. The first example. Take 2 minutes, read the question properly. Now that you have read the question, let's read it together. What is the input given to you? The input is 41 snow, 10 eagle, 97 nose, 26 65 animal date. Let's look at the output first and not the per step change. The output is 10 date, 41 snow, 97 nose, 97 snow, 65 eagle, 26 animal. What is the first thing that you are required to note? First, check if there is any change in the elements themselves. When you compare all the elements of step 5 with the elements of the input, you will realize that none of the elements are same. The number 10 is the same as the number 10. The word snow is the same as number snow, and this applies for all the remaining words and numbers. Hence, first thing, we are clear in our head that the first thing is that there is no change in elements, and the only change which needs to be noted in this question is that there is a change in position of the elements. Now, if you look at the question, if you look at the output again, what you will realize is that it's not that the numbers, first let's look at the numbers. Are the numbers following any ascending order or descending order? It goes from 10 to 41 to 97. It's descending till 97. However, after 97, the numbers again drop to 65 and 26. So, it is neither ascending order nor descending order, but maybe a mix of both. Let's try to apply another approach. What is the number greater to 10? It is 26. It is at the other end of the number 10. The number which is greater than 26 is 41. So, we again come to the left-hand side. The number greater than 41 is 65, so we again flip to the right-hand side. And then it is 97, so we again flip to the left-hand side. So the numbers essentially are going in this manner. It's 10, 26, 41, 65, and 97. Now look at the words that are there. The words, again, do not follow either ascending or descending order of the alphabetical order. It goes from date, which is D, to nose, which is N, then S, snow. So it's descending till now. However, after snow, it again falls down to eagle, which is E, and then an A. So essentially, it's descending first, and then it's ascending first, and then it's descending. The same as what we noticed in numbers. Now let's do the same thing which we applied to numbers to this given output. Here, we see that the smallest word, I'm using the word smallest just for the sake of simplicity. I hope you get that by smallest, I mean smallest in the alphabetical order. So the smallest word here is animal, which is to the absolute right. Then we have date, which is to the absolute left. Then we have eagle, which again moves to the right. Then we have nose, which again moves to the left. And then we have snow again towards the right. So the words also are following a right-left order. Now that we have understood, now that we have compared the input and output properly, and we more or less know that the numbers and words are placed in an ascending order, but from left to right and right to left, and not in a straight manner, let's look at the per step change. Comparing the input with step 1. What change do you notice in the input and step 1? The only change which you can clearly see is that the largest number, 97, has been brought to the absolute left, and the largest word, snow, has been brought to the absolute right. All the other remaining elements have been written as it is. Now we go to step 2. Compare step 1 and step 2. What is the change that you notice? We notice that the second largest word, that is nose, has now been brought to the left hand side, and the second largest number, that is 65, has been brought to the right hand side. So what are we essentially doing? We are essentially taking the next largest word and taking it to one side, and the next largest number and taking it to the other side, and we are doing this for all the following steps. With this, we come to a complete analysis of the input-output question which is given to us. Now what are we required to do? Read the question. As per the rules followed in the given steps, find out the appropriate steps for the following input, and an input is given to you. What are you required to do? You are required to apply the same algorithm or the same steps or the same sequence or the same rules, call it whatever you want, to the given input. What did we essentially do? Largest number to the left hand side, largest word to the right hand side. This is for step 1. Step 2, you do the reverse. Word goes to the left hand side, number goes to the right hand side, so on and so forth. The moment you are done with changing the position of all the elements, your input-output question is over. Again, pause the video right now. Do the same exercise for the input which is given to you, and then check it with the answer which is there in the following slide. I hope you all are done with the question, and I hope this is what your answer looks like. The questions which follow input-output questions are very simple. They might ask you in step 4, what is the element in between exam and yellow? So you come to step 4, you see that in between exam and yellow, the number 12 is there, and the answer to this question will be 12. They might even ask you, how many steps did you take to get the output of the given input? So the answer to that is a clear 5. I hope you all could solve this easily and not with too much of difficulty. I hope you all are done with this, and now we move on to the last example for today. This is the second example. Again, take 2 minutes, look at it, try to compare the input with the output, and then try to understand what's the per step change. I hope you all pause the video and analyze the input-output. Again, let's try to do it together. First, as we did earlier, we'll compare the input with the output which is given to us. Is there any change in the elements? Yes, there is. There is not only a change in the words which are given to you, but there is also a change in the numbers. What is this change? You will see that while the words more or less have been kept normal, there are certain letters which are added either after the words or before the words. As for the numbers, it's really difficult to find out what's the actual change done. So let's get to the per step change to understand what's done to both numbers as well as the words. So when you compare the input with step 1 that is given to you, what do you need to compare and how do you essentially compare it? Firstly, you will see that the word aircraft has been brought to the front, to the absolute first element of step 1. So this is clearly an alphabetical order which you're trying to follow, because you see that in the output also, the word aircraft is followed by the word combination, then devastation, then efforts, then provide, and then major. So essentially an alphabetical order is being followed. Following this, aircraft is brought to the first word of step 1. Now you compare the numbers which are present in the input but which are not present in step 1. You will see that all the numbers of input and step 1 are matching, other than the presence of the number 98 in the input and the presence of the number 17 in step 1. So this gives you the conclusion that it is essentially the word 98 which has been changed to 17. How do you compare 98 with 17? Are they multiples? Are they divisors? Are they squares? Are they cube roots? What are they? When you look at the question and try to think about it for just a minute, you will realize that it's essentially 9 plus 8 that gives you a 17. And why did you choose the number 89 specifically? Again, you will notice that 89 is the largest number among all the numbers of your input, which is why you chose the number 89, added the digits of the number 89, brought it to become the second element of your step 1, and the rest of the elements are kept as it is. Not only have the elements been kept constant, but also their positions. Now we compare step 1 with step 2. You see that the word combination has been brought forward, followed by 14. Why did you bring combination forward? That is only because you're following the alphabetical order and C comes after A. And how did you get the word 14? What is the second largest number? After 89, the second largest number is 77. When you add 7 plus 7, you get a 14. I hope this gives you a clear example of what is being done with the words and the numbers. One thing is still left. What is the change that you're bringing about in the words that are given to you? Now you see that in aircraft, the letter U has been added after the last letter. However, in the word combination, the letter B has been added before the first letter. What is the difference between aircraft and combination? I hope you all understand that the word aircraft begins with a vowel, whereas the word combination begins with a consonant. So the difference is, and mark my words, this is the rule over here, that in case a word begins with a vowel, then you add a letter after the word, which is the letter following the last letter of that word. And in case of words beginning with consonants, you add a letter before the word, which is the letter preceding the first letter of the word. I hope this wasn't too confusing, and if you look at the examples which follow you, this will become all the more clear. You look at the word effort. It begins with a vowel, ends with an S, and so we added a T. You look at the word provide. It begins with a consonant, and so you added an O before the word P in order to give you the final output. I hope this was clear. With this, we come to an end of the second example, as you can simply apply the same algorithm to the input which is given to you. Pause the video right now, apply the same rules, and I hope you all get the next slide as the answer. This is the answer for you all. Just check if you have followed all the rules properly, and I hope you all get the answer correctly. With this, we come to an end of input-output. This topic might seem to be a bit complex one, and in case you have any doubts, feel free to reach out to any one of us, and we'll be more than willing to help you all out. Remember, you have to notice 3 things. First, the change in position of elements. Second, the change in the elements themselves. And third, the change per step which is there in the question itself. Once you can crack these 3 things, this topic becomes a cakewalk for you.